Boys and girls, today is one of those lessons where there were some shapes that would be really helpful to have, but we don't. So you're going to really need to use all your familiarity with shapes and how you could turn them or flip them or move them around or combine them and do some hard imagining on today's work. Get your pencil and eraser and your book. Let's get started. All right, guys. So you can see again, we're working with combining shapes today in lesson 12.4. Now, we would actually ideally have these shapes that we would put in here, kind of like tangrams, and draw to show how we put the shapes in. Well, since we don't have the tangrams, I'm just going to go ahead and show you. This is what it would be. So can you see here you would have had a cube, and over here you would have had a triangle. Over here, you would have three shapes to fill this in. And here you can really see the shapes are a little bit odd because when you look at this one, can you see how this side of the triangle is just a little longer than right here? So we're using that same triangle right here. Do you see it's kind of like it got picked up from here and turned down to over here? This side is just a little bit longer than this side. And then right here, this cube, not cube, that would be three-dimensional, huh? Here's this square right here. And there was a rectangle right there. All right, turn the page. Here's the part where you're going to need to do some imagining. Here are these two shapes. Do you see they could go together? And do you see now they have a dotted line here? And that's because what you really want to treat these as is one shape that goes like this. Same thing here. This dotted line here means these two pieces now you really want to treat them, whoops, as though they came together and became one shape, like that. All right, so let's go ahead down here. What two shapes here could you put together to make that one? Well, I assume that's not very hard, right? You know it's going to be those two shapes. You're not going to use that rectangle to make that circle. Take a look here then. Which two shapes would make this? Now, again, I don't think this is very hard, but in your mind, you're going to need to do a little turning, right? Because you're not just going to take this shape and stick it here like this, are you? You're going to take this shape and turn it some, right? To make it go with that one to make this shape. Here could be a little tricky too, because it kind of looks like you have this half circle in here, right? Here's this part. But can you see if you actually had the half circle, it would come out here a little too far? Plus, then you don't have anything that makes that shape. But if you imagine this one here, and then you would take this one, and again, you're turning it to slide it over to fit it in with that one, you could end up having that shape. Or imagine taking this one over here and turning it and putting it right there. All right, next page. This one I don't think is too hard. You can imagine which two of these you would be putting together. If you need to, go ahead and draw lines like we did on that first page. Can you see right there? When you look at this length here, it would be easy to think it's the rectangle, wouldn't it? But when you draw this line here, where that circle stops curving, that kind of quarter circle stops curving, then you can see it's actually a much smaller shape down here. Same thing here. You know you've got this triangle going on. But this part can start to look really long like it's a rectangle. But if you either actually draw the line or kind of in your mind you draw the line, you can see that this is actually a lot more square than it looks to start with. All right, this one shouldn't be too hard here. So now this could be a little bit tricky because it would be easy to just use your fingers like I've been doing and put it together, right? But you actually are going to use words. So what I want you to do is kind of imagine somebody saw this picture and then the picture was taken away and you could only talk to them on the phone. So you could only use words to describe what you're doing. Imagine if we did that here. I'm going to go ahead and draw this line here so we can really see which shapes we did. So the words I would use would be to look at the long part of the triangle and look at the half circle. And then take the flat side of the half circle and lay it down on top of the long side of the triangle. Do you see how I would be explaining there with words, something that would be a lot easier to do by just showing, but it's important to be able to use the words on that also. All right, last page here. We've been drawing some lines, haven't we? So here you're going to draw the lines in these shapes to show what you got. So you can see here's this rectangle shape. Well, for us to have that rectangle shape, the triangle would have to go on right there, right? So I think you can do that for all of these. There's not a hot problem. Just look carefully here and think, this one is a little bit of a hot problem. What you have to be careful of is kind of look at how long this rectangle is. Is it really that long? Or is it not that long? All right, here's this shape. Would you put together these two to make that one? You know it's not those two. So take a look, see which shapes you'd put together to make that one, and color in the circle. Go ahead, send me a picture of this page for your math for today.